It's different when you're in there. It was actually wild. They called me, said, hey, we're going to take you with the 80th pick in the 3rd round. This is before the day started. And I was like, why not the 2nd round? Right. Well, we have a plan there to get more money in the 3rd round. He's like, but the problem is we just don't want someone taking you before that and holding you hostage, like making you sign for whatever. So I spent the whole day hoping not to get picked until pick 80. That was the most stressful part.
Right.
Yeah, just hoping somebody didn't pick you.
Because you're not in control of it. Yo, it's your boy. It's Phil Wham Bam Benamino, and it's another Wham Bam Wednesday. You know the show about ordinary people who've done extraordinary things. Today is no different, like any other day. But first, as always, man, subscribe. Go down there, click the subscribe button. Make sure you like it, share it, love it. Tell us all about it. Give us any comments and feedback that you possibly can, because without that, we can't continue to give you this great content. We have professional Major League Baseball player in the house today from Georgia. We got Cole Wilcox in the house. How are you, Cole?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Man, thanks for you being here, man, especially after, the World Series just finished up. Baseball just finished up. You've had a busy season yourself.
Yeah.
Drafted 2020 by the San Diego Padres.
That's right.
Right? Out of Georgia.
Yeah.
What was that like, man? Tell us a little about that.
So the draft experience is so much different than people see. Like it's honestly a pretty stressful time.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went through it in high school. Kind of a highly touted guy out of high school and got a lot of love. I set a pretty high number, kind of high bonus number that I wanted to have, and kind of priced myself out of going to the draft. I wanted to go to college. I feel like I could get a lot better. And then I did. I feel like I was in a good spot. So I was actually draft eligible my sophomore year. If you're turned 21 within 30 days of the draft, you're eligible your sophomore year.
Gotcha. So sophomore year in college, you're ready.
I was only there for one full season, then COVID shut us down.
Now, keep in mind, viewers, forgot to tell you, Cole's a pitcher. Not sure if you knew that.
Right. Yeah,
so,
pitcher.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Right-handed pitcher.
Right-handed, yeah.
How fast you throwing the ball?
Well, it's kind of a pre-surgery and a post-surgery deal right now. In college, I was 98 to 100.
Damn, 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
98 to 100. This past year, I was like 94, 97. But I'm more of a starter role. My freshman year of college, I was coming out of the bullpen. Kind of opened up a little bit. So,
what do you like more? Do you like coming out of the bullpen better, or do you like being a starter?
There is pros and cons to both, I think. Yeah. Pros and cons to both. I like the bullpen is a different adrenaline rush. Like starter, you kind of spend the whole day warming up, spend the whole day getting loose, getting your mind right for it. Bullpen, you're just sitting down there and the phone rings. It's like, hey, get loose. And it's just like an instant jolt of adrenaline. So now, I do like that.
What is it like, though, as far as pressure? I mean, the pressure obviously comes on. When you're coming out of bullpen, they're in trouble.
Well, you know going into it that, like, you're going to throw the high-stress innings. But I will say that it's a lot more stressful sitting in the dugout and watching those high stressful innings than it is pitching them. Because you're not really thinking about the situation. You're more just thinking about each pitch. Like, I'm going to execute this pitch. And then after you execute that pitch, I'm going to execute the next pitch. You don't really think about the stakes around you. Like, you kind of know, like, the situation. You know, there's a guy on second. I don't want him to get the third. Got to hold him. Stuff like that. But you're not really thinking about, like, oh, do or die, you know?
Right.
When you're sitting in the dugout, your heart's beating. You're stressing out. Like, oh.
Well, I got to think, looking at the whole picture, I guess if I was in the bullpen as a reliever, maybe there's not as much pressure because the game's already in trouble.
Yeah.
So if you go in there and it continues to be in trouble, really wasn't your fault.
Right.
But if you go in there and stop the trouble, then you become a hero.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I guess the stressful part comes when you come in a clean inning and you're down and you're up one or something, and you give it up.
Right.
Like I said, you don't, as a competitor, you don't really have that mindset. Like, I don't want to give it up. You're like, I want to be the one that gets us to the ninth or closes the game out, something like that.
Right.
So I like them both. I mean, starter, it's great to have the routine. You get all week. You get the 4 or 5 days in between where you can really kind of prep yourself, your lifts, your conditioning, stuff like that, your throwing. But reliever, you just got to be ready at all times. I would say the reliever is probably a little bit harder on the body for the full season, but going out and throwing 6 innings is pretty tough too. Yeah.
So talk about your experience at Georgia. I mean, obviously everybody here, when they hear Georgia, the Bulldogs, they're thinking football. They're thinking, the NCAAs and all that. Yeah. You don't hear a lot about baseball. No. But you had a solid team, man. 2020, you guys were pretty strong. Tell us a little about that journey and why you chose Georgia.
Yeah. So the reason I chose Georgia, growing up, I grew up in Georgia. Like, I was a diehard Bulldogs fan. And I never really had a dream, I guess, of playing baseball there. But once the opportunity presented itself, it was like, yeah, this is super cool. Once I got the offer and the coaching staff I really liked, it was a pretty easy decision for me there. And some of the guys from my area were going too. And I felt like, and Georgia was pretty bad when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was getting pieces in there for we could be really good. And we were. In 2019, my freshman year, we went 24-6 in conference. We were like I think we were the 4th overall seed in regional. So we had a really good team. We lost to Florida State in the regional. And then in 2020, we were ranked number 2 in the country when the season got shut down after 4 weeks.
COVID, baby. Huh?
Yeah. We had swept every weekend series. I feel like we were in a pretty good spot. So that was tough, but I loved it. I mean, playing baseball in college, especially at Georgia, was probably the most fun I ever had playing the sport.
Yeah.
It just felt like it meant so much. You wanted to win so bad. You're with those guys every single day. You live with them. It's just such a different experience. It's the best, really.
You know, it's funny though, because a lot of people that are playing in Division I, you know, college baseball, whether it's baseball, football, any sport, the goal is to go on to the next level.
Yeah.
But not everybody, a very, very small portion, get to do that, bud. And you were able to.
Right.
So, you know, did you know at that point in time that, hey, this is a reality. Major leagues, they're going to want me. I'm going to be able to get signed, drafted. Talk about that and what that did for you.
Yeah, for sure. And especially that year, the COVID year, there's only 5 rounds of the draft. It went from 40 to 5. So it was tough. And like I said
they changed
earlier,
it that much?
Yeah.
I didn't even know
and
that.
they've never went back to 40. They stay at 20 now.
Yeah.
So it is even harder now to get in and stay. And they're going to continue to shrink the roster sizes. But that's what.
Why is that? Is it a money thing?
Yeah, more allocation of money. Minor leaguers kind of went through the ringer for a long time. There just was no funds for them. Like, there's so many teams. There's four minor league teams now, and then you have the complex league. So 5. So now you can spend your money a little bit more. There was 2 other teams. There was 7 before this, before 2019. And so it's just more, they put their money more in player development, which I think is a great thing. It does suck that there's less roster spots, but being able to invest the money in stuff that's going to help the players get better, obviously is going to be better for your long term as an organization.
Right.
So that definitely helped.
So you're sitting there and, you know, coach come by you or major, I mean, how does that work with, you know, scouts and stuff?
Yeah.
They're saying, hey, man, we want you. We think you can make, you know, be a part. I mean, you end up being drafted, what, 3rd round?
Yeah, 3rd round.
You know,
so I got a pretty good story about that too.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So like I said, in high school, it helped me out kind of going through that process. You have the area scouts, and then you have regional scouts, and then you have the GM and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a build up. And you kind of develop relationships with the area scout guys because they're always in. They come to your house, they meet you and your family, hang out for about an hour.
This is pre-NIL money.
Yeah,
so there's none of that involved.
No. Yeah.
So the game's changed quite a bit since.
So yeah, they come in and they meet with you and stuff like that. So you get to know them. And then so in college, like I had a pretty good idea that I was going to get picked pretty high. I always say I was throwing 100. That helped out a lot.
Yeah.
But so I'm meeting with these guys.
Yeah, were you always throwing that hard and that fast as a kid? Like, what was your development like?
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly,
were you like 10 years old throwing heat on the mound?
No, I was not. It was, I guess, around 8th grade is when I started throwing like harder than everybody else in my area. And I kind of just gradually put on 2 to 3 miles an hour every year.
Really?
Yeah, I always played basketball. And so I really wouldn't throw a whole lot in the fall and winter. And then I'd start throwing bullpens and stuff. And yeah, I got pretty hard. I think my sophomore year, I think I touched like a 94. And then just junior and senior year, I was 96. I think I hit a 98 my senior year. So, and then I got in a college weight room. Obviously got pretty big. I was always skinny. I was tall but skinny. And so I think just adding a little bit of strength helped out too.
Yeah.
So,
well, they say a lot of the throwing. I mean, throwing comes from the legs, right? It comes from your.
You want to use everything. You want to use everything. It's you just sequence everything up. I
go to the carnival. I go to the fair and I throw the ball. You know.
Yeah.
If I get 70, 75, I'm like, wow.
That ain't bad.
And when you think about 100, it's like, holy crap.
Everything has to be working in your favor to throw 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like your body has to be working all timed up, sequenced. You got to be in a good spot, mobility, everything. Yeah, a lot goes into it.
Especially control.
Yeah, control
alone,
for sure. And you have a little less, I guess, more room for error. You don't have to be as pinpoint when you're throwing 100. You know, you kind of just let it rip.
Yeah.
Which is nice. But yeah, back to the draft. It was we get to draft night, and I was kind of getting like mid first round grades. I've been talking to teams. My agent's like hearing some good stuff from some different teams, and I was hearing the Nationals a lot. So we get to 19, and the Nationals are picking at 19. My agent calls me and says, "Hey, these guys are going to take you. The draft slot's $3 million. They're going to pay you full slot. Like here,
But
just
you're how old are you at this age?
I was 20.
You're 20 years old. 20 years old, and you're saying, hey, you're going to get $3 million.
Yeah,
You're
20 years old. And so, like I said, I already been through this draft process once. I knew I kind of wanted to go to college, but when you don't get drafted, you're still a little bit pissed off.
Sure.
You know? And so I go to college, a little bit of chip on my shoulder. And so I hear this, and he's like, just stay on the phone while they work things out. All right, so I'm staying on the phone, and I kind of hear some stuff start shuffling in the back a little bit. And my agent comes on, he says, hey, I think they're going a different direction. I'll call you right back. Hangs up. And so I didn't have the big draft party because I didn't want that situation to rise. So I just had like my parents, grandparents, one of my best friends over. So they see me on the phone. They get excited, obviously, and they knew the Nationals were kind of in that range. And I just told them, like, I really don't know what's going to happen. So I never heard back. I'm watching the TV. The Nationals pick somebody else. So I'm like, geez. And I was kind of pissed. Like, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't want to go back to school again. So I called my agent the next day, and I was like, hey, listen, like, I know we had a number, but I'm ready to go. Like, let's get going. And he was like, well, I was about to call you. There's a lot of teams that went under slot. So you have a slot value in the draft. Each pick has a slot value. And so, and you have a draft pool for 5 rounds in that draft. Most time it's 10 rounds, but for that one's only 5 rounds. So let's say the Yankees get $17 million to spend in 5 rounds.
Right.
You can allocate that however you want.
Right. Gotcha.
So a lot of guys in the first round were taking under slot values. So they were taking discounts on like some high schoolers and stuff like that. And they had more money to spend in the back half of the draft. So it was a wild experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With that one. Yeah. And so teams can kind of do it however they want.
So at that point, let me just take you back for a second before you finish. What team did you want to go to? Like, what is your dream? What was your dream team?
I genuinely had no preference.
Really? So you haven't growing up, you didn't have a team.
Growing up, I was actually a Yankees fan.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Not a bad team to be on.
My first rec team was like the Yankees. You know, when you're like 4 years old, and so I just started watching them. Loved Derek Jeter. Loved Mariano Rivera. Loved CC Sabathia. So it was just like I just ended up watching them. And by high school, I became a diehard just by watching them every time. But no, it was just like I don't know. It's different when you're in there and you just get the opportunity to do what you want to do. And, and whoever gives you that opportunity, it's you feel more connected to them. You know, it's like these guys believed in me. Now I'm all in for them.
Right.
You know, and so when the Padres called me, gave me that opportunity, it was actually wild. They called me. It was just the 2nd and 3rd round that day. They called me and said, hey, we're going to take you with the 80th pick in the 3rd round. This is before the day started. And I was like, why not the 2nd round? Right. Well, we have a plan there to get more money in the 3rd round. He's like, but the problem is, we just don't want someone taking you before that and holding you hostage, like making you sign for whatever. So I spent the whole day hoping not to get picked until pick 80. That was the most stressful part.
Right.
Yeah, just hoping somebody didn't pick you.
Because you're not in control of it.
No control whatsoever. They could just pick you and be like, well, we'll give you this. And if you don't want that, then you don't sign. But so we had to deal with the Padres. It all worked out. I got there.
How much they pay?
I got 3.3.
$3.3 million. 20 years old.
3rd round record.
Even more than what you thought you were going to get. You said $3 million was your number. So you got a little bit more than for holding out an extra day.
And in college, my number was about that. Or in high school, I was like just north of $3 million. So it's really just a God thing. Like it worked out. Kind of bet on myself a little bit and saw some things that I thought were, you know, a hindrance to what I wanted, and then it turned out to be a good thing. So it was cool.
That's
good
awesome.
Experience.
You know, talk a little bit about that too, and tell some of your, because I know a lot of these younger kids, you know, they think, you know, they hear this big money, and you know, which is big, obviously. 20 years old, you got that kind of money, but you know, there are also a lot of fees that go with that as well. You know, tell a little about like what your agent's getting, what some of these fees the IRS is getting, how all that works. Like it's not like they write you a check, here's 3.3 million, Cole, put it in your bank account, good luck, right?
I think some people think I just have $3 million sitting in my bank account.
Right.
Yeah. And like obviously, you know, the federal tax on the highest tax bracket is 38% right off the rip.
Right.
38% gone.
Hopefully that's going down. We got a new president in the House.
No
you know?
kidding. Yeah.
So
the federal tax, so you can take 38% of that, boom, gone.
Yeah.
Agents was only like 4%, 5%. And then
but now you're at 42%, you know,
exactly,
right there.
Already. Yeah. And then so what I was worried about was California. So if I had to pay if I signed in California, the state tax in California is 13%. So there's 50.
There's 57.
Right off the rip.
57.
And luckily, I signed in Arizona. So I got the Arizona tax. I had to pay the extra Georgia tax, so around 5.4%. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at north of 50% just knocked off right there.
Half the money's gone.
Yeah.
Boom, just like
Crazy.
that. Yeah.
It hurts,
So it's like,
but
yeah.
you know,
I mean, you're still blessed, obviously.
everybody's paying it,
Sure,
right? So
sure.
it's not like you're getting singled out. It's just part of life, and you know, I'm more than willing to pay taxes if we know it's going to the right places, right?
Right.
Like, you know, if it's helping out the country, I'm all for it. So you know, it wasn't that big of a deal. Still tied to my church, stuff like that. Like it was a blessing to be able to do stuff like that. I enjoyed, obviously, having that type of money. There's a lot of opportunities. And,
Sure.
And, you know, I tried to do the best I could with it.
What's the first thing you did?
First
when
thing
you got
I
that first
did-
check, that first deposit, what was the first thing you spent? What'd you buy?
Well, I got a truck.
Yeah.
But
What kind of truck?
I had a 4Runner in high school. Loved it. I would still be driving that 4Runner. I'm in San Diego. It's COVID. We're locked up pretty much. I'm in an apartment downtown, and I get a call from my dad one day, and he's just like, "Hey, I sold the 4Runner," and I was like, "What? Why?" He's like, "I just figured you get something else." I was like, "Okay." So I went and got a truck, but now I love the truck, so
There you
it was worth it. But yeah, I missed the 4Runner a little bit. I love that car.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously you got a little bit of money. You're out in San Diego. What's it like getting adjusted and now all of a sudden you got a whole new teammate. So you got to meet new friends. You're trying to fit in. You know, what is that like? Are you being eyed because, you know, you got a lot of pitchers there. How many pitchers are on a roster initially? Because at that point in time, you know, you're still trying to make a roster. You're trying to be part of the team.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch. And, you know, you're not really, I don't think you're looked at much different just simply because there's a draft every year. You know, it's not like it's some weird thing where it's like, oh, here's a guy just got drafted.
Right.
There's 20 to 40 guys that come in every year.
Sure.
But
you know they're looking at you.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
trying to
like,
say,
oh, you know, this
there's going to
guy
be two
got
or
money.
three that are going to make
Right.
it. Which two or three are going to be the ones?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
There's a little bit of pressure there, but the baseball world is so small. It feels like I've played with so many people throughout the years, and I know I feel like I know half the league just simply playing with them. So I knew a lot of guys when I got there that was already in the org. All of us baseball players, I feel like, are pretty much the same. It's easy to get along with everybody, so that was never an issue. And the Padres were great. I thought they treated me awesome. They have a lot of really good guys that are in leadership roles there. I respect that organization a lot, and we had a lot of good players there, and it was a fun time because it was the alternate site. I don't know if you remember all that during baseball, their COVID year. They had an alternate site, no minor leagues, just an alternate site where if the big leaguers needed someone, they could only pull from this pool of 30 guys. So I was out there, and I had no chance of being pulled up. I just got drafted. I was just there for the experience. But it was awesome because we were in downtown San Diego. I was playing against big leaguers every day, scrimmaging.
Right.
If they needed to rehab, you know, Hosmer, Machado, they needed to rehab. They came down to San Diego and got live ABs off us. So learned a lot. That was an awesome experience, just being able to do that. But kind of gives you a false taste of what it's like going back to minor leagues the next year. It's a little bit different.
Yeah. So talk about that transition too. Being that you're there, you're in the major leagues, but you know you're down in the minors.
Yeah.
But now you have some of these players that are hurt and they're rehabbing, but they're coming down to get some swings in and different things. Are you trying to outdo them? You know, to show them that hey, you're the man, or you want to get looked at, or you have a different level of respect that okay, that's so and so, so I gotta kind of throw him, you know, a little different. You know, to get his confidence up. I guess his coach is saying, hey, throw him a couple meatballs, man. Let him get his confidence up. We need him. I
don't think they'd want that. You
Okay.
know, I feel like they would find that disrespectful. Like they're trying to get real at bats. They're trying to compete as they get back to the big leagues. And as a competitor, that's an awesome opportunity. Like, you know, I got Eric Hosmer standing in there. He's a multiple-time All-Star, World Series champion, and I just got drafted. I'm 20 years old.
Just strike him out.
Just kind of feel I did not strike him out. No. He I think he hit a ground ball to second base, but he was one of the best dudes I met there. He was awesome. He was great to us. He always hung out, down to earth guy. But you kind of it gives you confidence because you think, you know, these guys are in the big leagues, you know, they're doing stuff way different. And then you play against them and it's like I can compete with these guys.
Right.
The difference is how consistent they do it, how well they know how to recover. They just know their bodies so well, and they know how to get on the field and compete at 100% every day. They're consistent, and obviously they're really, really good at what they do.
Sure.
So, you may get them out once or twice, but you face them 10 times, and they get a feel for what you want to do, then they have the advantage. So it's
you know,
all about trying to figure that out.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Statistics. How well statistics play in the roles. Like, do you as pitchers too? You do a lot of film, not just watching yourself, but you watching batters, how they're treating certain pitchers and where they're standing in the box. What are some of the keys that you look for? When you're trying to get ready for a game against somebody?
Yeah, that could be a long answer there.
Yeah.
Every organization has different philosophies. Usually everybody gives you some kind of scouting report. But you have to be careful about scouting reports a little bit because let's say, hey, this guy can't hit a changeup. Well, you got to look at the changeups they've been facing. Or he does really good against sliders. Well, what sliders he's been facing? Because every pitcher is so different. So you don't want to just take that and be like, oh, I'm never throwing this guy a slider if it's your best pitch.
Right.
Like I like to see how the hitter reacts to my stuff first.
What's your best pitch?
My best pitch is my two-seam fastball.
Okay.
Two-seam slider combination. I don't get a ton of swing and miss with a two-seam, but just a lot of early outs.
Gotcha.
I can get through games pretty deep. But the pitchers are so good in the big leagues right now that the hitter can't try to hit every pitch. He's looking for a spot where the ball's going to start, and then he attacks. So, like, I'm watching the World Series, and I'm seeing some stuff. Let's say, I think it was Gleyber Torres hitting one time. I forget who he was facing, but they threw him a slider. It wasn't really even got rid of a slider. Backed up on him a little bit, and he flinched. He flinched back, and the ball was right down the middle.
Right.
To me, that's telling me he's looking away because he's looking out, and now the ball starts in, and he's like, oh, no, like flinches up.
Right.
So I told my wife, we're sitting there watching him, like, he's looking away. Sure enough, they go back in. He kind of gets up big again, and then the guy tried to throw him a backdoor changeup, and he flipped it into right field. So he was just waiting on something to start away. He knew how the pitcher wanted to attack him. I'm trying to think of who it was. He could throw in a changeup. And then Judge came up, and it's when he hit the homer to right center. And he took a really good slider low. It started low, and he took it. And he'd been swinging at that all week. Right. And so I remember telling my wife, I'm like, I think he's looking up. Because, like, anything that starts low, he's just going to eliminate. If you throw 3 straight low fastballs to a guy like that and they take all 3, they're willing to do that because they can't cover it all.
Right.
Sure enough, he got an elevated fastball and hit it out. So you're not always right in those things. Like sometimes the hitter makes adjustments mid at bat. But
well, we know in the World Series that Freddie Freeman was right all the time when he got up to bat.
Yeah,
he knew exactly what was going on.
Sometimes when you're hot and you're feeling it, you can cover a lot more of the plate than somebody who's struggling.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, listen, obviously I was actually at the World Series. I was at the game. It was game 4 and 5.
That's awesome.
Diehard Yankee fan, grew up. Obviously, my father never missed a game. So, and I actually buried him, funny enough, in Babe Ruth in Monumental Park.
Really?
Right there at the stadium. Yeah,
Wow.
when he passed. That's where he wanted his ashes, so we put him there.
That's awesome.
So it was pretty cool. So
that is awesome.
Got to go up there and visit him on Game 4 and start the rally. To come back, and of course Game 5 was a catastrophe, man. What are your thoughts? Just want to get a pitcher's thoughts about that. You're up 5-0. You're pretty good control of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bases are loaded. There's 2 outs. There's a couple errors, but as a pitcher, all of a sudden a ground ball comes to first base, and you just totally doesn't cover up. Like, what do you think was going through his head, man, at the time?
Yeah, so the thing about that is covering first base.
He gets that out, they're still up 5-0.
Right. Yeah, covering first base, like, it's a natural reaction for a pitcher. Like, a ball's hit to first base, you cover. But what I will say is, if you hesitate for a second, like Mookie Betts was running.
Oh, yeah, fast as hell.
If you hesitate for a second, you're gone. And I'm a guy who gets a bunch of ground balls, so I'm always alert to try to cover first base. But there's still some times where it's like, maybe you trip a little bit, or your spike gets stuck in the ground, and you feel like you're stuck in sand a little bit, and next thing you know, you're not going to beat the guy. And I think that's what happened. I think Cole just hesitated for just a second, whether he got stuck in the ground or something, and then realized he wasn't going to beat him there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sometimes you just make some mistakes.
It's hard,
sucks,
man. It's hard. But you know what? The Dodgers played well. They played flawless. They really did. They got a great team. They deserved to win. It was their time. I just look at it when stuff like that happens. When you're up 5-0, and you come, and then they come back and they score, and they're up 6-5. But then in the 8th, they end up walking. And here's a question: Weaver. Weaver to close. Why wouldn't you put your closer in the 8th inning, 8th and 9th? Why wouldn't you let him go 2 innings?
Yeah, I don't
what is
really.
that process?
I'm not for sure what the situation was with him and like how many innings he'd thrown and stuff. Like, number one, I thought it was super impressive that Garrett Cole came back after that and threw 2 more innings.
Yeah,
I thought that was. I mean,
he's
a
a freaking monster. Yeah.
That's Garrett Cole. Like, obviously, you have the 5 runs. There's mistakes behind him. I think he would admittedly say he made a mistake
Yep.
on covering first, and then he comes back and gets 6 outs for you to get you to the bullpen. I thought
Exactly.
That's Hall of Fame stuff.
Yep.
But no, I don't. Did Weaver throw in Game 4?
He did, but he came in the 7th inning. You know, he came in the 7th inning. He threw the 7th and a couple in the 8th, and then they pulled him.
Yeah.
So, you know, but
Oh yeah, and they brought in Holmes. Was it
yes,
Holmes?
yep, finished out.
Yeah.
So that was the difference. But
you never know. There might be something where, because there's so much, like you already mentioned, there's so many numbers that go into this game, and so maybe Weaver dominated the guys who were coming up in the 7th and 8th historically. So it's like we know he can get us 5 outs right here, no doubt. We'll get the last 4.
is there a certain thing as a coach? You know, you're a pitcher on the mound. Is there? Do coaches tell you, hey, do not throw this pitch to a certain batter? And can you get in trouble for doing it?
I've never been told that directly, but I remember.
Like if you go against the coach, your coach is like, listen, I don't want to throw any sliders to this guy. And then boom, you throw a slider, and God forbid he hits it and cracks it.
Right. So I don't think anybody's ever saying that. I think most coaches, the good pitching coaches, they want the pitcher to throw what they feel convicted in. So if it's like, hey, this guy can't hit a changeup. Well, my changeup's my 3rd best pitch. I don't feel good with it today. I haven't thrown it for a strike. You don't want the pitcher throwing that pitch in a big situation. You would rather throw him something that the hitter can handle, but that he's throwing with full conviction. Because you have these guys, they have good stuff, and hitting is still hard. Like, regardless if somebody hits a good slider or not, it's hard to do that consistently.
Right.
But, you know, if there's a scouting report and you kind of have the plan going into it, and maybe you shake the catcher off and do something else, like, no, I don't think anybody's going to get mad at you for doing that, but it's kind of like, come on, dude. Like, I had the pitch called. Right. You know,
do your job. That's what I'm saying. Like, do your job.
You know,
like,
you thought you knew better than me, but yeah.
Yeah.
And catchers are great, dude. Like all the catchers, like they call a game, but ultimately they defer to you, like what you want to throw. And
well, talk about like the earpieces now they have. There's
awesome.
communication going on. You know, tell a little bit about that, because I know some viewers were watching World like, what's going on? What's in his ear?
It's great. So I was in AA for the first half of this year. We didn't use it there.
Yeah.
When I got to Durham in AAA,
well, first of all, I got to talk about that. That's right. You got traded.
Yeah.
What that was like from the Padres to Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, let's talk. Let's go back. Let's talk about that real quick before we get into the whole.
I think getting
sound.
traded is probably one of the wildest things in sports.
How did that come about? Like you're sleeping one day, you get a knock on the door, or hey, by the way, Cole, pack your shit. You're out tomorrow.
So it was the off season.
Okay.
I've seen guys that get traded and walk across the field to the other team. Before.
Really?
Yeah.
Just like that.
But I was in the off season and I was just hanging out at a family friend's house, and I saw that Blake Snell had been traded to the Padres, and I'm like, I could be in this. Like that was my first thought. Like there's a possibility here. And so I look on Twitter. Sure enough, I think it was Passan tweeted, kind of like some details of it. And then his next tweet was, "Yeah, I was in there. Like, there's the 4 guys that were going." So that's how I found out first. Agent.
You
called
found
me.
out through a tweet.
Yeah. Agent called me like right when I saw it, and he was just like, "Yeah, the rumors are true. Like, there's still some physicals and stuff going down because they had Blake Snell too." And he's like, "Physicals, like obviously Blake has to pass the physicals, and then, it's legit." So that's kind of how that went. And like, there's no hard feelings in a trade. Like somebody wants you in return, right?
Sure.
They're getting a Cy Young caliber pitcher, and to trade him, they wanted you in return. So, you know, some people look at that as like getting thrown away by the Padres. Like they were trying to win, you know, and I respect teams that try to win.
Sure.
Obviously, I was still a couple years away. They had a team they felt like could win the World Series with Machado and Tatis and all those guys, and they went and got a number 1 to help them do it. So I thought it was a good move by them, and obviously no hard feelings from my end.
So what's it like? You got to say goodbye to everybody. I mean, do you have that opportunity? Do you have that? You know,
well,
do you get that, or it's like, hey, yo, you got to catch a flight tomorrow?
Yeah, at the alternate site, the previous year, the Padres went on a big trading. They went on a big trading run. They traded for Mike Clevenger. They traded for Nola. They traded for some other guys, And so all the guys I was with at the outside were getting traded. There's only 30 of us there. And so like 15, I think, got traded. So it was wild. That next day we walk in and like kind of dap everybody up. They leave and it's empty. The place, there's like 15 of us and we're like, this is weird.
Right.
So me in the off season, like, obviously it was a lot better. I would say it's better to get traded in the off season. It's a lot less hassle because you're at home already. All your stuff's with you. You don't have to go out and get anything.
Right.
So you just report to spring training and for the Rays instead of the Padres.
How's that been for you? How'd you like going there? Did you see a difference between the organizations? And talk a little bit about that.
I wasn't with the Padres long enough, and I never went through a full season. So it's hard for me to like see the differences. Like looking from afar now.
But just being greeted, just being, your first impression, being there, all that.
Well, it was a lot easier with the Padres because there was less people. And I was with the big league team for a while. So it was different. With the minor league team, there's 200 guys reporting there on the one day.
That's a famous minor league team, though. The
Well,
Durham Bulls.
well, we go to spring training first. Spring training's first.
Oh, okay.
And it's in Florida. And everyone goes. Everybody in the organization goes. And so it's a hassle. Like there's a ton of people there.
Yeah.
So it's not like they could spend a lot of time like greeting me and showing me around. There's tons of people there. It's during COVID. We're getting tested, all that stuff. So that was different. But no, the people that I've played with for the Rays, my managers, my pitching coaches, all been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, let's get back into the hearing pieces and stuff.
Yeah.
What is that like? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So the first time I used
technology.
it, I'd never used it. It was my first start in Durham. And so I'm like, I don't know what I'm like. I have no idea how this is going to work. There's volumes on it. I'm asking people, what do I set the volume on? It's right in your hat, and the catcher has a piece on his knee, and it's a button system. So like the first button's fastball, second button's two seam, third button's change up, whatever it is. You'll see them like put their glove over it and press it, and then it pops up in your ear, and it just says four seam fastball or slider, and it's nice because you don't have to wait on signs. You can get it as you're walking back to the mound. The problem with me was I like to pitch fast, and so it really let me pitch fast when it's just coming right in your ear. I'm getting the ball back. He kicks fastball. I'm like, all right. So I step on the rubber and throw. So I kind of had to let myself take a break in between, act like I'm getting like legit signs. So it slows me down just a little bit because I was just going at rapid pace, rapid fire. But it's great. I mean,
what was the purpose of it, do you think?
Well, I think the Astros pushed it a little bit with their stuff. The sign stealing.
Stealing the signs and all that.
Yeah.
But with communication, don't you think people can tap into that?
Yeah, there's been some rumors and stuff about tapping into it because you're on a channel, but I haven't heard any validity to any of those.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe if you tried really hard, you could.
So you basically can put whatever button, you could say whatever you want. You can make it. You can change button 2 could be a fastball this game. Button 1 could be a fastball the game after that.
I think so, but I think they keep it pretty standard for the catchers. They have it memorized. Because if you look, they're not even looking at it. They're kind
do you ever get a choice button where it says, "Fucking pitch what you want"?
No. The catcher would be in trouble there.
Oh yeah,
it was coming. No, but you can shake. I mean, you just shake it off, whatever you want. Some pitchers call their
Now
own.
let me ask you that: what happens when you shake it off? You shake it off. How does the catcher know what you're going to throw then?
He just pressed another button until you get it.
Oh, okay. So he just boom,
So
boom,
if it says
and you shake
fastball,
that.
you shake. He presses slider.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're playing at a stadium, we played in Memphis our last game. No one was there. I pitched on a Tuesday, and I had it on the normal volume. It was like 13, and I felt like the whole stadium could hear it. Like I was constantly like turning it down because it was way quieter in there than normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's different because it's obviously something I've never used, but it was. I love it. Like it should be standard in all pro baseball. Yeah,
That works
Just
out.
makes the game so much quicker.
That and also the clock, the pitch clock.
Yeah.
What is that like? You said you pitch fast anyway, so it probably didn't affect you much.
It didn't, but it's still fast. Like if you go from not doing it to throwing on it, it'll speed you up. And I was rehabbing. I had Tommy John surgery in 2021, and I rehabbed most of 22. I get done with at the end of 2022. They send me to Charleston in low A to pitch for the last month, and that's the first time I'd pitched with it. And I was just sitting in the dugout, and I was talking to a guy, and the game just ends like at 2 hours. I'm like, this game's over? He's like, dude, with this pitch clock, the game goes so much faster.
Right.
And so the next day I pitch, and yeah, you have like, I thought I pitched fast, but you still have to get going a little bit. Now it's no big deal. Like I've thrown on it so much. I like using it to hold runners. So it's always like to the left and right of home plate, the clock. So if I come set and I'll see 5 on the clock, I'll just hold it. hold it till it gets down to 0, or it lets me mix up my holds a little bit because you have that clock right there, which is useful.
Right. Talked about Tommy. You had a little surgery going on with that. How did that happen, and what created that to affect you?
I mean, pitchers unfortunately are kind of time bombs with our elbow. Like it's something that most all pitchers go through. There's ways that I've learned over the past few years, working with Gannon and some of those guys, that there are some preventative measures. There's no foolproof system to never get hurt, though, unfortunately. So I think it's just wear and tear.
Yeah, you see it more and more, especially in the high school level. These kids, these younger kids. I mean, I'm seeing 12 and 13-year-olds having this surgery already.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy and stuff.
Crazy.
But,
yeah, that's.
do you think a lot of that has to do with knowledge and they're not getting the proper conditioning and stuff? Now, I know you work heavily with Peak Kinetic over there and performance. And in fact, you do a little coaching over there in your off season with them as well, too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I run the pitching operations there, and like you said, there are definitely ways to help prevent it. Like we get you moving right. We get your mechanics, efficiently. Where, like you said, you have to use your lower half in the throw. We make sure that everything is sequencing from the ground, and we just try to limit as much pressure on that elbow as we can possibly get. And elbow, shoulder, everything else. I feel like we take pride in doing that. And if I knew back then what I do now, I feel like that I could have at least extended my time before I had it.
So tell some of the viewers that are listening, that are back down now, that are listening, that you could actually help them get ahead of the game. What would you have changed?
Well,
like luckily, you go back to Cole 10 years from 10 years ago. What would you tell yourself? What would you do differently?
I would have definitely trained differently in how I lifted weights. A lot of the traditional weightlifting, get big weightlift or exercises are not real conducive to pitching.
Right.
Like it gets you pretty compressed in a lot of areas where it's putting a lot of pressure on some of those joints. And that would be the first thing. Find somebody that knows what they're doing with your workouts. That's number one.
Why is that? You think these kids today, they want to put all the weight on. They want to look around, see me, look how much I got. I got 300 pounds. I mean, when I was in high school, I remember we had a 300-pound, bench club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, you got in the 300-pound bench club, that was your goal.
Right.
But when you look back at that and you think about that, I'm like, no wonder why my shoulders messed up these days.
No, I mean, that's the competition in you for sure. But, you kind of have to separate, your competitive desires and being smart about your career.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a bad thing to do a lot of those lifts. I think, the timing of them, how often you're doing them, stuff like that. Like there needs to be some skill work involved where you're getting the move right. So you're able to do things on the mound and you're not limited by anything on your body, range of motion, stuff like that. And that's constantly what I'm doing now in my workouts. Like, it's not like I'm throwing around a ton of weight. Like I still lift for sure, but it's more maintenance of mobility and stuff like that.
Muscle tissue.
Yeah, through lifting. Lifting is the best way to create that range of motion. So that's what I would do. And the best thing to do is, and I didn't do this luckily, but guys shouldn't be throwing 5 innings at 9-year-olds, or 8-year. Like my son won't pitch until he's, 12, 13 years old. And still then he won't throw much. There's just no reason to. All you're doing is putting a lot of wear and tear on a young body that's growing at such a rapid rate. Like just be an athlete. Go play wall ball, Go do some stuff that are fun. There's no reason to be on a mound throwing 5 innings when you haven't hit puberty yet. Right.
But you know what? These kids today, that's what they want. They want to be that Major League Baseball player. Yeah. They want to be that Cole Wilcox. You know what I'm saying? They look up to those things and say, hey, I want to be that person at 5, at 7, at 10 years old. Yeah. So they want to go ahead and do that. And a lot of times these dads these days, let's just call it what it is. There's a lot of parents out there to push these kids. They want them to be what they couldn't be. Yeah. Which is unfortunate, but that's a reality.
Definitely. And it's the state of youth baseball is in a really bad place for that reason. Too much money being spent, way too much money on games that don't matter. Like, the only thing that matters when you're 9 and 10 years old, learning the game and just letting your kids be competitive. I mean,
so how do you feel about that with travel baseball and all this stuff? Because travel baseball is constant. It's year round.
Going insane. Yeah,
it's year round. It's like there's not a break, man.
Way too much.
And a lot of these kids, and I've seen it just coaching football and stuff. A lot of these athletes that used to play 2-3 sports are now, I want to be a professional baseball player, so I'm just going to commit and just play all baseball. but they don't realize that the basketball can help you get, the same skill levels that you need to be an athlete to perform.
Just be an athlete. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. Just learn to be athletic when you're young. That's the biggest thing I would do. You're right. The travel baseball is outrageous. When you get to high school, it's kind of essential because that's when colleges recruit. They can't recruit in the spring,
especially now with the NIL money and everything else going on. Sure,
colleges don't come to your high school. They're playing at the same time you're playing. So summer baseball is great when used in the right way. But the amount of money people are spending on kids that are middle school, before middle school, send them, get developed, go be an athlete, let them play some baseball games, and let them come to the gym and get right, or let them play basketball, let them play football, stuff like that. There's no reason to specialize in baseball at a young age. You're not getting recruited at 12 years old. There's no scouts there. There's no reason to act like it's life or death World Series games. Have fun with it.
No, that's true. And unfortunately, a lot of these parents and coaches have taken the fun out of it because it's all about, hey, let me provide the best team. My team's the best, and we're going to win the little World Series championship and this, that, and the other. But, I don't know too many World Series champions that actually played in the Major League Baseball. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I think we need to pull that statistic, man, and find out because I'm kind of curious what that would be like, what that would look like. Right. How many Major League Baseball players literally actually won the World Series?
I mean, 12-year-old your body changes so much,
right?
It's not that, like I said, just establish a winning culture when you're 12 years old. Just establish letting your kids compete, figure out a way to be the best they can be, and that's the stuff that's going to translate. Hitting homers as a 12-year-old is not going to translate to when you're in high school,
right?
But working hard, finding a way to get better, having that winning culture about you that's what's going to translate. And I think that's the biggest thing for youth sports. Just kind of that problem solving aspect. But I had a dad call me one time. I think this was last year. He's like, "Hey, I got a high level 8-year-old. We're looking for some training." And I'm like, "What does that even mean?"
Right.
An 8-year-old's just an 8-year-old to me. I don't care.
Right.
They're doing the same thing anybody else is going to do.
I love that you just said that. I just love that you said that. I hope you guys, parents, are in that. An 8-year-old is an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a high level 8-year-old.
There's not.
Okay. I know you love your kids. We all love our kids. Our kids are always going to be the best to us. But to put them on a platform like that, man,
it's crazy.
And then they don't realize what they're doing to the child mentally as well,
right?
Because they think they have to have a certain standard now, and they have to do certain things in a certain way. Yeah. They can't just be kids anymore.
And like you said, there's a fine line where you don't want to make the parent feel like they're in the wrong, because ultimately they are doing what they think is best for their kid, and they see an opportunity for their kid to be really good, and it's be patient. He's not going to make the big leagues as an 8-year-old. Just be patient, let him grow, let him mature. You don't want to do anything to stunt his growth either. Him throwing 5 days a week is going to stunt his growth. Let him grow, let him compete, let him be an athlete, and then when the time comes, he gets to high school, we can really dive in on some stuff and get him right, get him ready for college. But the youth baseball, like I said, it's causing issues in how players are developing on the baseball field. And I hope there's something that can be done where, I don't know how at this point, it might be too far gone, but I think the rec league should get back to being, kind of where everybody does for youth baseball, especially coach pitch, and having everybody in one area play, establish that team aspect, establish, being a winner. And then once you start throwing kid pitch and stuff, you can do some traveling and stuff, get some more experiences. But ultimately, like I said, just step out of your kid's way and just let them compete.
Yeah, that's strong said. Let's talk about recovery. Being a pitcher, obviously, recovery is super, super important. I remember back in the days, you always saw the pitchers, they'd go right to the dugout and immediately, boom, bags of ice on the shoulder and stuff. But now technology has gotten so far advanced. Yeah. What do you do now for recovery and stuff? What does the day look like after you're throwing?
So after I throw, I like to get my range of motion back. I'll do some breathing correctives, some crawls and stuff to kind of get all that stuff back, all that stuff moving. I don't like to just go sit, for sure. And then the next day, everybody has a different routine. Everybody has their own routine that works for them.
You cold plunging and all that?
Not the day after normally. There's sometimes I do it every now and then. I don't do a ton of passive recovery type stuff. I think it's useful for when you're feeling sore and stuff like that. And there are some benefits. A lot of our players do it like right at the start of the day. They get to the field, they just get in there for like 5 seconds, pop out. And I think there is definitely some benefits to that. There's benefits to everything when done right. The thing about it is there's no one size fits all. There's no like, hey, here's how you're going to recover. Great, do this.
Right. Everybody's different.
It's a mix of everything too.
Sure.
Like you want to use it all. I like some active recovery stuff, a little conditioning work, weightlifting, and then if you need some soft tissue work, get some soft tissue work. If you're a contrast guy, hot cold tub. I started doing that towards the end of the year when I was a little more sore. So yeah, it's just knowing your body, and every week's a little bit different. You have your stuff you do every time you pitch, but just knowing what you need that week is essential to staying healthy all year.
Now, the one thing I always wondered, when you sign a contract with, a Major League Baseball team, they have a right to what you do and what you don't do, correct? And especially off the field. Like, what is that like? I mean, your arm is that's what they're paying for,
right.
Right. So there are things like they say, I don't want you to do in the off season.
Yeah.
You can't go skiing or jet skiing or any of these types of things.
I'm not sure what the exact stipulations are for a minor league contract. I know like the big league contracts.
Yeah.
There are definitely some more stricter stipulations. Minor league, I'm not 100% sure what they do, but yeah, like ultimately they're just expecting you to be a professional. Like, don't go do something stupid and don't give us back on our investment. Like don't hurt our investment.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you go join jiu-jitsu, in your off season, you want to do some jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff, and then all
Probably
of a sudden somebody ends up popping your arm. Probably not a good thing.
No, it's a bad look there. And they're not going to be happy with you. But yeah, like that's such a difference in pro ball and like college, where college you're constantly under the eye of a coach and stuff like that, and then pro ball it's like we're gonna let you do whatever you want to do, but like if you mess up, that's your career on the line. Like you're done. The game's gonna keep going on. We'll find somebody new. But you hurt your own career, you're out. And that's kind of how I try to treat my guys that I train in high school. I try to treat them like a pro. Like, listen, I'm here, and I'm here as a resource, but I don't want to hold your hand. Like, I want y'all to figure some of this stuff out. Here's what I want y'all to do. If you have questions, never hesitate to hit me up. But, like, I want y'all to – I'm trusting y'all to do what you need to do to be right when, it's time to throw a bullpen or time to long toss, stuff like that. And – just kind of establish those habits now, because like how it is. Once you leave your parents' house, you can do whatever you want to do, but ultimately your choices are going to dictate how your life goes.
Right.
And the same in your sports career.
That's right.
Nobody's forcing you to go work out in pro ball. Nobody's forcing you to get your conditioning in. You can just flat out tell them no, and they're just like, okay. But it's the choices that you make that are eventually what's going to determine if you're successful or not.
Right. And that's if you get that bigger contract.
Yeah, the bigger contract, there's probably some more stipulations on there for sure. But we're talking multi-millions.
Well, you know what? You're young, dude. You're 25 years old?
25.
So you're just getting started.
Yeah,
and a lot of people these days, a lot of kids are choosing baseball because they feel like you can play the game longer than you can a sport like football.
Yeah, you can.
Do you believe in that? Do you feel like, okay, that's a decision-making term, because there are so many, arm surgeries now and a lot of injuries and stuff that are happening. There's a lot of games. Baseball is a lot of games.
Ton of games.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's a long season.
Yeah.
When you go through that and you're playing hundreds of games, it's like, wow. Okay, there's an off season, but we're back in season again.
Yeah. Your body is torched by September.
Yeah.
Torched. But yeah, maybe that is a decision-making process. You get to play the game a long time. It's hard to get. It's hard to get in the big leagues to play a long time. Like somebody has to continue to feel like you are helping their team for that long. There's only 26 roster spots on each team. So it's hard. Like, ultimately, if you're a really good player, then you can hang around for a long time in baseball. But getting to 10 years, getting tenured in baseball is not easy. That's why it's celebrated when people do it. And you mentioned 25. Like 25 is, I think 26, maybe 27 now is the average age for somebody to debut. So you're kind of getting that time where when you're 25, 26 as a minor leaguer, it's time to make a splash. Or there's a ton of 19-year-olds.
How do you feel about that, man? Are you ready? You making a splash?
Trying
to. Feeling good about it?
Yeah, I feel like I had a pretty good year last year. And
what was our record last year?
So I don't know the record. It's kind of it was a winning record.
Yeah.
And I'd have to look that up. But no, I thought obviously pitched a full season. All my numbers got better. Between ERA, WHIP, everything.
What's the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge in trying to get better and trying to actually make that roster?
Well, situation can be kind of dependent on that. Like, you can pitch as well as you can, but if there's 5 starters in the big leagues right now who are all pitching well, there's not much you can do. You just got to keep doing what you do. And that's the hardest part of playing in the minor leagues, is trying to filter out the things you can control and the things you can't control. Like, I was stuck in AA a long time. I felt like I was pitching really, really well there. And the thing I could control is how I kept pitching. The thing I couldn't control is if I got moved up to AAA or not. And there's always teams watching. That's what you have to remember. There's always 29 other teams watching. So whether you're stuck on your team or not, there's another team that could want you. And the trade deadline's coming up. The offseason's coming up. So you're always playing for something. And really, like, you have to make sure you're playing for yourself first, where you're going out there competing, you're doing what you enjoy doing. And that's ultimately when you put a bunch of stress on you and you start thinking about uncontrollables, that's when you start pitching bad.
Yeah.
And it just kind of snowballs from there. So you just try to enjoy it as much as you can. And that's when you're playing loose and having fun, it's crazy how this happens, but you tend to play a lot better.
Yeah. What do you see Cole in 10 years from now? What would you like to see?
Well, obviously I'd like to be in the big leagues. I'd like to be helping a team try to win a World Series.
Let's manifest that, baby.
Yeah.
Let's manifest that
now. I love
who are you on the mound for? Who do you think? Who do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Well, obviously I'm with the Rays right now, and obviously they've given me a good opportunity, so I'd love to.
They don't have a bad team.
Love to cash back
They got a
in
young
now,
team.
for sure, and we got a loaded minor league system, loaded.
Yeah.
And so.
That
But
was good.
that's another thing right there. You don't really have control of that, right? Unless you are a free agent, a coveted free agent, and you can sign wherever you want. Like if you're Juan Soto right now, he's in a great spot.
Oh yeah, he's
in a great spot. That'd be a good spot to be in.
What do you think he's gonna go for?
I guess he's gonna push 600, right?
Yeah, there's some people talking 700.
I mean, that's
crazy.
When you can hit free agent as a 25-year-old. I mean, he's my age, and he's already played 6 years in the big leagues.
Right.
So he's in a good spot. You can sign that long-term deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to make a lot of money.
He's going to make a lot of money. Do you think money is an important thing at that point? Because to me, making $650 million or $625 million really is not big a difference.
No, I agree.
I mean, like, oh, well, that's $25 million. Yeah, but after the 50% cut, they're taking this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Is it really going to change your life?
So I've always wondered
everything?
that. I guess it's tough when you're in that situation. I guess nobody knows but you. But
right.
I've always thought that too. Like, what's really the difference? But yeah, to me, I want a combination of where I feel like I'm getting fair pay and where
where do you think he's gonna go?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I guess it's a combination of like, I'm getting paid fairly, plus it's somewhere I want to go. But also, you have to think about, and this is a lot of fans don't think about. You have to think about the guys coming behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Like think about if you're, let's say, Bobby Witt Jr. or Corbin Carroll or some, one of these young, really good players. And Juan Soto takes a huge discount somewhere. Well, he's just reset the market for you, right?
Right.
And so that's why, like the Bryce Harper, Mike Trout situation, Mike Trout let Bryce Harper sign first, or it was vice versa. I can't remember.
Yeah, Bryce.
And like Bryce Harper set the market, and he said he called Mike Trout and was like, all right, go beat that. Like you're helping out the guys you're playing with.
Right.
You don't want to take a huge discount and hurt the market of outfielders coming up.
Right.
So that's something I feel like you got to consider too. It's not being selfish. Like you want to get your full value so the next guy can get his full value too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think value is the key word, because there's different values to different organizations, because there's a lot more money to be made than just on the field, right? You got endorsements, just like the city of New York. I mean, you know them. Being a Yankee is a little different.
No
okay, money for money, dollar for dollar. If all things are equal, they're really not. You know what I mean? That's
what I would
reality.
counter that with is, from a team's perspective, let's say your team struggles with attendance, like it could be worth it to spend that money and maybe get a return on investment on Juan Soto to get people in the seats.
Right. That's right.
And there's no salary cap in the big leagues. A lot of people, I feel like, act like there is, and there's some money discrepancy, but like the teams can spend as much as they want.
Right. How do you feel about that, man? People always, they're buying their teams, like the Yankees, they're buying.
To win. Trying to win.
That's what I say. It's like, what is wrong with investing in your company? And if your company is your team,
100%,
and you're putting the money back into your team. And it's so funny how, New York gets a lot of slack for that, because it's like, they're the highest paid team. They should, they should be doing better, this, that, and the other. but the Leafs are spending the money.
And they're competitive every single year.
You know what I mean? They're spending the money. They're trying to get there, and they're putting the money back. They could put it in their pockets.
No doubt.
They can put it in their pockets and live a happy life and be fine.
People still come.
You know what I'm saying? Right. People still buy them hot dogs and Cracker Jacks in the stands, but that's a reality, you know? But they're putting the money back into it.
And that's a big thing that agents are kind of pushing in baseball right now. And I think the Players Union for sure is pushing it hard, like competitive balance in the like teams that are actively tanking.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's got to be some kind of punishment for that, you know?
Right.
Trying to win is the whole point of sports. And that there are some times where you rebuild, like, you know, you trade away your good guys, and that's part of the sport. But, you know,
well, there's a timestamp on everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's just it.
Right. But when it's obvious that a team is just trying to save money, that's when it becomes frustrating.
How do you feel about Oakland going to Las Vegas?
I mean, obviously, it's a cool spot. Vegas is awesome.
Dude, they're going to put it right there on the Strip.
It's going to be nuts.
Which is crazy. Right across from MGM.
It'll be a great place to play.
Yeah.
For sure.
Going to be awesome.
But yeah, I feel for those fans in Oakland who are diehards. You know, they really struggled there at the end with they lost all their good players. You know, all their good players got shipped off, and we didn't really know what to do there. And obviously they all showed up for that last game, and you heard some of them talking about how they went for years and years, and you know, you kind of feel for that.
Right, cool. Well, you know what, Cole? I really appreciate you being here today and talk a little bit. Is there anything else? Just look at the cameras. Anything you want to tell these younger people, or anybody out there, about their journeys as they're trying to become, you know, a Major League Baseball player themselves?
Nah, I mean, it's a long journey. A lot of stuff happens. Like I said, you can't make the big leagues at 12 years old. You can't make the big leagues at 8 years old. Just keep having fun, keep playing, and just trust the process. Have fun, establish good habits. And be an athlete. That's the biggest advice I can give. That athleticism transfers from year to year. Hitting homers and throwing hard can vary, but being an athlete, you'll have that the rest of your career. Yeah.
And then you're doing some off-season stuff, you know, coaching and stuff. Tell the viewers a little bit about where that is and a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah. Run the pitching operations at PK Pitching. We are in the Chattanooga area. We do remote work as well. But ultimately, it's just, you know, trying to figure out how to make you the best pitcher possible. We have an assessment process for both S&C and pitching, and we just really dive into your movements, how you move on the mound, and give you a program that helps you attack those different things and get to where you need to be ultimately. And we believe in long-term results, so it's not like a 1-2 month thing. Like, I'd like you to train with me for 6-12 months, and let's see what we can do after that.
Yeah, so you're still going to keep in contact even though you're in season.
For sure.
You're out there working. You can still do this too remotely, like you're doing this, and you keep in contact with your students.
With the technology we have now, remote training has never been easier.
Awesome.
Just give the program an app and get video feedback so I can see what you're doing, and it's a pretty easy process.
Great. So there you have it, folks. Another episode of Wham Band's podcast. You heard it from Cole himself. If you're going to go out there and you want your kids to play baseball, just let them have fun, man. Let them have fun. Let them enjoy the sport. Let them become athletes. Just encourage them to keep playing anything. And you know what? As they get a little bit older, as they pass puberty, as they're getting a little bit into high school, that's when the real development comes in. So have fun, and remember, as Wham Bam always says, if your life was a movie, would it be worth watching? And if the answer is no, then stop being ordinary and start being extraordinary. Till next Wednesday, baby, I'm your boy Wham Bam. And as always, stay positive and keep testing negative. And I'm out.